Hey guys, how's it going? This is Jeff. Today I'm going to make a video to answer some questions that are related to what I do for work, but I'm going to go one step farther and I'm going to talk about what I feel is core values that can be applicable to you, but that I also applied to be able to achieve some of my ambitious goals and stuff. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and talk about basically my keys to success and what got me to Hawaii. So I personally would have to put at the very top of my list, some people would call it hard work, others, but I like to call it incredible focus. This goes in line with a couple different things, but mostly basically you have to find your passion. And this is stuff that I read in books. So reading books is really a gateway to new ideas and newfound fundamentals that you can apply to your life, whether it be an audio book or listening to a book on YouTube, because you can do that, and also reading a book. So I would say that incredible focus is really important, but that comes about, in order to have incredible focus, you have to have passion for what you're doing. And for me, I was listening to actually Tony Robbins one day. He's a self-help guru, so they call him. And I was just basically flatlined. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I felt kind of like I needed a breakthrough. So I'd go walking in the woods, or I'd go walking in the desert, wherever I was. I'd just go walking and thinking. Sometimes just walking without even music or anything, just trying to ponder, what my next direction was. And yes, I wasn't drunk, or I was sober-minded, I guess you could say. And I had this, I don't remember if it came from Tony Robbins or if it was just a premonition that I had, but he said, find your passion. And I'd seen that Steve Jobs also said that, and Bill Gates, and all these successful people. And I was thinking about how I could find out who I really was at my core, to find out what my true passion was. Because as I'd gone through the military and I'd done other jobs and worked for other people, I felt as though I kind of, you could say, got lost, And I felt like it was coming to me to find out who I really am. And the best way that I could do that was to flash back to when I was a kid. So I would think to myself, I'd be like, what did I really enjoy when I was a kid? Well, when I was a kid, I was heavily influenced by a movie called Top Gun, which actually was probably the reason why I ended up going into the Navy and working on a flight deck of an aircraft carrier, because to see the Blue Angels also, between Top Gun and the Blue Angels, I was like, that's what I wanted to do. But so that was a success, but it was subconsciously ingrained in my mind to do that. Now, but after I'd moved on to my next, I had to find out what else was I passionate about. And I remembered I was passionate about geography and almanacs. And I used to study almanacs and baseball cards and all sorts of statistics, but also the maps. So that helped me to get on, realize that what I'm really passionate about was, like, basically, it's almost like if I was in England, I would have been a seafaring, yet again, this comes with the Navy, right? I would have been on, like, Magellan's boat or someone's boat, like, transiting the world. So that's when I realized I was really just an explorer. Like, I was born to travel and explore the world and basically go on walkabouts and do all that stuff, which I actually ended up doing, fulfilling my own passion. But I was like, but okay, so if I'm passionate about travel, how do I make money with this, right? So I was like, well, I don't know, I did a simple search. I typed into Google, how do you make money as a travel agent? Or how do you make money in the travel world? And then I started to realize that media, so utilizing media, this is media right here. There's a book, if you want to understand exactly what media is, you can read the book, because I'm already telling you about how reading is like a gateway to new things. But it's by Marshall McLuhan. It's called The Medium is the Message. I think he meant to say the medium is the message, but basically it talks about how the media is a tool, or basically a deliverable that people consume. Anyway, so I saw that it said building social media channels was a way to, you know, build an audience, and you could travel and do that. So that was one thing that I saw. That's just one way, but I mean, there's other ways to do it, and those other ways, I might not be able to necessarily bridge that gap, but that leads me to my next thing is networking. So network with other people. So if you want to work in the travel industry, or if you want to be a drone pilot, or you want to be an aircraft pilot, or you want to be, who knows what, an artist, a painter, if you want to be a bartender, or if you want to work as a resort executive, I don't know what your ambitions are. You have to discover what it is. I also discovered about myself that I'm also an entrepreneurial spirit. Like, I like the rush of going out there and exploring the economics of the world. That's not for everybody, but I'm not gonna put someone down for being different than me, and I would hope they wouldn't knock me. It doesn't mean I'm greedy. It just means that that's my calling, and that's who I really was. That's who I was born into this world to be. You know, I was the type of kid that was trying to trade baseball cards or trying to sell baseball cards. You know, I was always looking for ways to just naturally just, you know, save money and go to San Diego and have $75 so that when I went to SeaWorld I could buy a toy and give it to my grandma or something. You know, it's just about being resourceful is what it comes down to. And that's not greed, that's resourceful is what I call it. So if you're an entrepreneurial spirit and someone who's an artist is saying, oh, you're the part of the problem, I would disagree with them, because everyone's different, and that's what makes us all come together and go. So networking with people who are a little bit different than you, and this can even be like politically, right? So I remember my grandpa recently, he's a far right conservative, and then his business partner is a far left person. And I said, hey, how's that work out? I said, you know, you guys are like polar opposites. And he said, it's great. He said he would always recommend never pick someone who's identical to you. It's like the whole thing, opposites attract. So, you know, don't be too egotistical to say, oh, I'm only going to align with people who are just like me. I'm only going to align with people who look like me. I'm only going to align with people who talk like me. You know, don't be so naive to do that, especially when you're trying to be successful in life. So be open-minded to the people that you work with and network with. And don't let dogmas or superstitions hold you back, because that can't even happen. Like, you'd be like, well, my mom always told me to stay away from people who always did this, right? And that can affect you, you know? Mama always said, right? Daddy always said, whatever the case may be. Okay, so the next thing is be daring. Don't be scared to take the leap. Don't be scared to take the jump. I'm not saying do anything that's going to hurt you or harm you, but I'm saying calculated risk. A calculated risk is saying, well, if I move to Hawaii, I need to know how much I need to make my rent, and I need to know that there's jobs available and have a little bit of savings in hand, and then just do it. And know that you can do it, and know that you'll pull it off. You don't necessarily know all the way it's going to come together. Like, you don't have the whole plan and the roadmap that's going to guarantee that you're going to get there, but you do have, you know, faith, right? You have the belief inside you that you can achieve this. So that's what I'm saying. Be daring. And then once you're daring enough to take that leap, then be determined and committed. Don't give up. It's like President Trump says. I remember I was watching a this is before he became president and I even cared if he was president or not. I was just watching a documentary called The Men Who Built America. And it was on the History Channel. It was actually on YouTube. You can watch it. It talks about J.P. Morgan Chase, Rockefeller, you know, Carnegie. It talks about all the people who were, you know, the Gates, the Jobs, the pioneers of that era. And, you know, this is one thing I must say about our generation. Our generation is so quick to judge the ancestry of the world, whether it be anywhere. From a self-righteous position, we don't want to be that, because we don't want to think that we're just so pure that our ancestors didn't know this and that about that. It doesn't matter what country they come from, what their racial background was, or what their preference of anything was. We weren't there, so who are we to judge, you know? So let it be. So, but I also, so in a non-judgmental way, I'll study history. I want to know, because at the end of the day, the way the world turns, it's cyclic, right? Just like you have seasons. You come in and out of, if you look at any chart, all charts go up and down, up and down. Some just keep going up. If you look at a stock chart, if you look at Google stock chart, it's pretty much like this, but up, 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 right? But if you look at some other chart, but none of them are just straight, right? So just like you have storms, you have storms in life, and you have storms in cultures, and you have wars, and you have famines, and all these different things, and those shape people's outlooks on things. Just like an event in your life might shape how you think or perceive things, same kind of thing can happen in the masses, okay? So when you're looking back on things like, you know, the men who built America, you know, I think that was important to study the history. But when Trump was on that, I had looked at Trump as a successful businessman because I'd actually watched how he got knocked down. He went bankrupt, and as someone who was, you know, who's been knocked down before, like I haven't just always been, you know, it's like that Beyonce song, dust yourself off and try again, right? That's, you can even say that in your head if you don't necessarily like Trump, or it doesn't matter who you like or not, it just comes down to the fundamental. But what he said in that documentary resonated with me so much so to this day, I still remember what he said, and I took it from him as something that would stick with me. I can remember in that show, he said, the only way you fail is if you give up. That was all he said. But those words right there resonated with me long enough to say, like, yeah, be determined, be committed, and don't give up. Because, you know, you might go through storms, like there might be a hurricane, and it might feel like it's there for a long time, but at some time, this too will pass. This storm will pass, right? So nothing is permanent. Don't feel like even if you're going through hard times, it's still wake up, put a smile on your face, and actually when you're feeling like your back is up against the wall, that's when you come out even harder and keep pushing for it. And that goes back to hard work and focus. So you just want to be resilient, be determined, okay, be committed. Also, high standards, okay. This is one of my biggest gripes with, I feel like, in the United States, and I know this is kind of an opinion, and I apologize if you guys take it the wrong way, but I feel like America has had a lack of standards. So I get it, we went through a tough period where we had an economic downturn, but I feel like that doesn't mean that our standards should go lower. Standards in a lot of different things, and I think, so high standards is something I learned in the military. And it started basically in boot camp. When you fold your clothes, normally you just fold them, right? Well, when you're in the military, you have to fold your clothes a very certain way. And it has to look a certain way, and they do a GI, general inspection. And those clothes need to line up just like that. It's like your gig line on your shirt. Like this would not fly in the Navy. I would have to, or in the military, I'd have to have it all the way buttoned up. I'd have to have it pressed, and this would have to line up with my belly button, or my button and my zipper would all have to line up, and that's called your gig line. But you see, this is the military is a very well-established institution, and they're one of the most successful institutions. And the reason they don't have room to have errors, okay? Because everything that they have in their institution is written in blood, as they would say. Meaning someone had to die and learn the hard way in order for that guideline or that notice to be there. And the military understands the importance of having high standards. That's why we always would clean the ship every single day. Even if the ship was clean, we were still in there cleaning the ship. Okay, so I don't necessarily carry those same standards that I had when I was military. As you can see, I've got, you know, two or three days shave here. In the military, I'd have to shave every single day. But the point is that those high standards are very effective. Even though I've laxed on some of those standards in some ways, I still find that I do maintain a high enough level of standards to not just drive myself to a point where I'm too strict, too much like a drill sergeant, but I realize the power in high standards. So with whatever you're doing, hold yourself accountable. And that leads me to my next thing. Accept responsibility. A lot of people, they want to blame other people. That's like our first easiest reaction. It's like, oh, well, someone stole my bike. Someone someone stole my CDs, someone did this and that. And now I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, if someone breaks your window and steals your CDs, that it's necessarily like your fault, but I'm saying accept responsibility. Think about, because it doesn't change the outcome if we pass the buck, if we pass the responsibility. So it's like this book that I'm reading recently on trading. I don't know if you guys do trading, but I like penny stocks and stocks, you know, in markets. I'm reading a book to learn, you know, and one of the things that particular author is drilling home in that is accept responsibility. But accepting responsibility is something I learned many years ago, but it's something that I'm always reminded of, because sometimes I'm just like anyone else. I might pass the buck and pass the responsibility on to someone else. It's like, oh, we would have won the game if the kicker made the field goal, but you had all the rest of the minutes, all the other 47 and a half minutes to get the job done, but the kicker's the last one that counts. No, it comes down to a lot more than just, you know, passing the blame onto the kicker, even though the kicker's the last one who takes the brunt of the heat. So it's really important to accept responsibility. In fact, let me show you how I learned this in practice. So when I was just an airman, you know, I was maybe a little bit, you know, I was just a kid. You know, it doesn't mean that it's right, but I just didn't have all the answers to a lot of different things, and I didn't have enough life experience. Well, I remember one time I was kind of irritated that my boss wanted me to carry something on top of something else and not the other person who was standing next to me. Well, anyway, so what he did, and this is me accepting responsibility, but showing you that I had to learn, right? He basically grabbed all the stuff. He grabbed everything. This is our boss. The boss isn't supposed to carry anything. But this guy, he always liked to carry stuff because he was the leader of the pack. He led from the front. Now, I'd had leaders before, but none of them were like this guy. This guy ended up being a gunner and going on to big things and being like one of the most respected guys in the whole command. Anyway, so he grabs everything and he's like, tell you what, you don't want to carry nothing? You walk right behind me and I'll carry it all. Now, I got to go walking up on a flight deck in front of everybody, and here he is carrying everything, our boss, and I'm standing behind him. Everybody's like, why the heck isn't this airman carrying anything? You get the mentality, though? That was an impression that was left on me. So it was a power of accepting responsibility. He took the burden upon himself, and I was so influenced by it that I never wanted to be that person again that would be caught looking like a chump, okay? I don't necessarily know if I was that bad, but I'm just saying, like, that's an example of how it would have played out, okay? I don't think I was that foolish, but you get the point, is that how that spirit that he adopted would be so powerful in influencing someone to step up to the plate and take the responsibility to do what needs to be done. Very powerful. Okay, so in this case, if you accept, if someone does something and you say, and you might have a suspicion that it's you or it might be them more than you, but if you just say, you know what, tell you what, I'm going to accept full responsibility for this. They're going to say, well, wait, so you're going to accept full responsibility? Yeah, I'm taking the rap for this one. Even though you might think that it's other people, at the end of the day, hey, you taking responsibility like that is going to influence that person in a powerful way. Unless that person's just an absolute laughingstock, more often than not, they're going to be influenced by the power of you taking the responsibility. So the next thing that I would say that goes in line with high standards is set lofty goals. There's a book out there. It's called Think and Grow Rich. I recommend it. It's by Napoleon Hill. You can actually Google Napoleon Hill on YouTube and watch his lecture. It's from like the 30s. But anyway, Napoleon Hill has a good fundamental in there about planning. So when you think and grow rich, so it's like you have to think about it, and then you have to come into agreement that it will happen, and you have to feel so confident about it that you will achieve it. So that's setting lofty goals. So he's saying, like, you can achieve whatever your mind can conceive. So whatever you can conceive in your brain, your mind, you can actually achieve that. And if you follow the rest of these goals here, you know, be determined, be daring, work hard, or work with incredible focus, set lofty goals, have integrity, team up in a network, you will discover that that becomes somewhat of a perfect combination to achieve big things in life. And so when you set goals, don't say, well, I just want to make $50,000 a year and just be happy, because, and I'm saying you can do that, of course, but I'm saying don't, if you're going to set high standards. So say I want $50,000 a year because I don't want too much, and you know, this and that, but I also want to have a wife, or I want to have a house. I want to have my own apartment. That, you know, think about how you want your life to look. Where do you want to work? You want to work at a job where your boss is nice. Kind of detail that, and then write it out onto a piece of paper. Okay. Some people call it a manifestation list. I'm not necessarily going to that level with it, but you know, think about what you want in your life. You know, if you want, be detailed too. Like, write a half a page if you have to. Be like, just think about it. And then like take some time, read it to yourself for like 30 days straight or something, however long you want, and let it become truth to you. Let it become real to you. Like when you're reading it, be like, when you're saying like, I would like to make $50,000 per year, or I would like to make $50,000 per month. Okay, but what he says there's more to it than just wanting. Okay, it's more like in line with also what you're willing to give. So you have to be willing to give something to get something. And these laws and these principles that he applies, you can discover in his lectures. Okay, but basically, if you're looking to achieve something, what are you willing to give for it? So is it your time? Is it another resource? What is it that you're looking to give to get what you would like? Okay. So it's not just about having this incredibly outrageous lust or this just incredible fantasy that isn't realistic. It's more about setting high goals that are realistic. But like you could say, I would like to make $1 million per month. And how would you get there? So you would say, well, in order to get there, I will run a pizzeria that will eventually turn into a chain of stores that will be across the United States, and they will be in 48 of the states. We will sell this, and this on the menu, and we will have a very effective process through organizational leadership, this and that, you know, and also our theme and our slogan will be creative, and this is what it will be. You know, I'm just giving you an example. You know, it takes a little bit longer to think about what you're going to do, but you know, you basically go into this kind of detail, and then you say, in exchange for that, I'm willing to commit the necessary time of 45 hours to 50 hours a week, or whatever it takes to achieve my goal, because it doesn't have to be quantified. And as a matter of fact, when you're working with incredible focus and hard work, sometimes you might have to work 80 hours a week. I'm not saying you have to, but I'm saying that that's the kind of dedication sometimes it takes. It's that do whatever it takes to succeed mentality. There you go. So, you know, you guys want to come to Hawaii, you want to achieve goals, you want to be successful. I think there's no limits on your success that you can achieve, because I'm not the only one who believes that. There's countless books and countless doctrines and philosophies of people who've come long before us in history that have achieved big things, and the core foundation of what they did was in line with this list. This list comes to you from years of education in life, and years of education in books, and years of education elsewhere. And I share it with you so that you can share it with others and inspire others, letting them know that really you can do whatever you would like to do as long as you're willing to take the necessary steps. A lot of people say, well, dream whatever you want to be. Okay, well, that's possible, but they forget to say the one thing, but you got to be willing to take the necessary steps. And you got to realize, keep a balance. That's something I got to work on. I'm still looking for the balance, because I became a workaholic, so to speak. I just love to work. That's what happens when you pick a passion that you love, and then you love it so much you just never give it up, and it kind of becomes an imbalance. So you got to find other things that you like doing, but either way, you know, we'll save that for another video. All right, so if you enjoy videos like this, subscribe. My name is Jeff. I talk about a lot of different things, including Hawaii, so see y'all later.